Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez to the Angels for their number 2 and 3 prospect. That includes number 67 rated, top 100 rated catcher Edgar Cuero and left-handed pitcher Kai Bush, who I had to laugh when I
NASCAR
heard
driver?
that. Well, I had to laugh when I heard that his his start to the season in Double A this year was delayed by injury. I'm like, what a
Oh
perfect
God.
fit. Why don't we get this guy? But
So
honest,
I'm already
you know,
wondering if you feel like this trade is as good as the trade where you received Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez from the Nationals for Adam Eaton.
so what I will say is I'm equally as surprised, right? I thought we got a lot for Adam Eaton,
You
and,
did.
and I kind of believe Gio's one thing, but Ronaldo Lopez has not been good this year. In fact, he really hasn't been good since like maybe early August of last season. If you really look at the
Yeah.
numbers, and we got their number 2 and 3 prospects. Now, do the 2 and 3 prospects in the Angels organization equal the 2 and 3 prospects if we had traded with the Dodgers? I don't know at
No.
the end of the day.
I saw the latest, or at least one set of rankings had the Angels system lower than the White Sox system right now. So it's all relative, but still, for
Yeah.
I mean, of course, who knows how this is going to pan out, but it looks. I think it looks pretty good on the surface for sure. You need a catcher. You need a catcher of the future for sure. So,
Yeah. And he's a switch hitter. Maybe he's the next Adley Rutschman. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. But
yeah.
the good news is I did read an article on the way home today from The Athletic that gave the Angels a B- on the trade and the Sox an A-. So,
Okay.
the guys who get paid to do this like what the Sox did on the trade. Again, I'm with you. Like, I mean, at least if their organization is ranked, their minor league system is ranked lower than the White Sox. At least they got something in the top three,
Yeah.
two of the top three. But yeah, exactly. So you never know.
What's the deal with with Lopez and Giolito being like attached at the hip in every trade?
That's
They've been
okay. So
trading with
yeah,
each
so
other every
that's the
time.
other thing. 2/3 of that trade, no one even knows what the last third of the trade. There were 3 players in the Washington deal, and
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
oh no, the third one was Dane Dunning, who's with
It was Dane
Texas
Dunning,
now,
yeah. And you
which
got Lance Lynn.
yeah, which will be essentially the whole side of that Washington trade will be most likely traded. We'll get to Lance Lynn in a few here, but um,
Yeah.
that being said, like yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny. They were kind of like linked together in that trade too originally when it was talked about because they both had such high ceilings, but were kind of underperforming for the Nationals, which is
Mm.
why, even though they were ranked high in their organization, they had brought up Lopez late in that season, and I think maybe Giolito too, and they just didn't perform up to expectations. And then with the way both of them kind of started for the White Sox, it looked like, like, hey, even though it was just Adam Eaton, Washington, I think they got a championship out of that, got the better end of
They
that
did.
deal for sure. But
They
while the
did.
White Sox didn't get a championship out of it, they got a
Oh,
lot of good innings, which is why we're talking about this today.
got a no-hitter.
Yeah, got a no hitter. Whoopee. A couple of playoff appearances for not. But the White Sox have failed. The window is closed, and we'll get to the final. We're kind of just talking about part 3 now. It's like live, it's happening. But, it's a huge disappointment as a White Sox fan. Not, I feel like even if they had done well this year, but, you know, depending on how the playoffs went for them, any sort of early exit, anything short of making it to the World Series would still have been a disappointment for me because,
Hmm.
it's kind of like
That was the whole point of going through
Yeah,
this for
it's a
5
bag of
years.
beans. It's like the bag of magic beans right now, and you don't know. You don't know when you get these prospects, even though everyone, it looks like the Sox were hitting on all cylinders, and everyone was, this is going to be like a great team. Like, you don't know about the prospects, but I think it goes back to a lot of what you said last week, Smitty. It's not so much that the White Sox completely missed on the prospects. It's they did nothing to supplement fully, like not as soon as they should have. And then their attempts at adding premier talent always seemed like, well, we're going to make this offer just so we can be in the conversation, so we can look to the fan base like we tried.
It's like they didn't fully commit to the full rebuild plan. The way
Right.
they did 80% of it and didn't push it over the top.
Yeah, they thought somehow they were going to do what the Cubs did without adding the veteran talent that the Cubs added to push them over the top for a
Well, yeah, it's
2016 championship.
John Lester is the big difference. You didn't say who is your John Lester of this White Sox window. It never happened.
We had John
I
Danks at
guess
one point.
that's true. but to Giolito, have you ever heard why they never really ever considered like signing him long term? Why it just never even came up. It was just a foregone conclusion that his contract was going to expire and he'd move on, or whether they traded him in a position to trade him at the deadline or not. This was going to be his last year, and I guess I don't understand that. Why is there a bad relationship there, or what? What do you have any insight in that, or are you as confused as I am about it?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by it. Part of it, I mean, part of me believes they knew they were selling. They knew what they were selling to us this season, and they made no significant off-season improvements like major buys.
Benintendi.
And I mean, honestly, he has been one of the bright spots though, really this year, which is sad, and
Yeah.
not doesn't mean a lot either. But they never, they're never in the conversation for the Aaron Judge type player. They won't be in the conversation for Ohtani next season. Um,
We'll get
so
to
it's
that.
like, yeah, we'll get to that, but like, I think if honestly, I think if somehow they were competitive, I think it's maybe instead of adding a player, they would have done one of their famous sign Giolito to a multi-year deal at the trade deadline and added modestly. That's one of their famous moves. But until new ownership comes in, um,
Yeah.
it, I'm mirrored in mediocrity. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Rick Hahn and Kenny need to go, but at the same time, I see Rick Hahn seems like a really smart dude. Like, again, he made all the right moves for the trades because that didn't involve money. But when he wanted or needed to spend, I'm not giving him a pass on this whole thing, but who knows? We'll never know how much it was like, no, you can't go after that guy. I'm not going to spend that money because history shows they are not going to spend that money. When Andrew
Right.
Benintendi is your biggest contract in a major market, it's a fucking joke.
Word Hole Media.